The story begins with a cunning thief named Frank Morris, who is being transported to Alcatraz, the most secure prison in the world, after being caught in a bank robbery case. Alcatraz was built on a small island in the middle of the sea, making it nearly impossible for anyone to escape. Even if a prisoner managed to break out, the surrounding ocean would stop him from going any further. That's why Alcatraz was known as the most secure prison on Earth. Only the most dangerous criminals were kept there. But soon, this prison's reputation was about to crumble, because Frank Morris, a man who had already escaped several prisons before, had just arrived. Although Morris was experienced in jailbreaks, this time he felt uneasy because Alcatraz's security was unlike anything he had seen. Still, he was determined not to spend his entire life behind those cold iron bars. From the moment he entered, he began thinking of ways to escape. The guards searched him from head to toe and locked him inside his cell. One of them said mockingly, "Welcome to Alcatraz." The real story begins from this point. A bell suddenly rings, and all the cell doors open automatically. The prisoners step out as the officers call them. The discipline in Alcatraz is extremely strict. Inmates must follow every rule, from cleanliness to returning to their cells on time. Everyone wears the same uniform and stands in line for breakfast. During breakfast, Morris meets a prisoner named Litmus. When Morris complains that he didn't get a fork for his noodles, Litmus coldly tells him, "This isn't your home. Eat what you've got." Suddenly, another prisoner named Wolf, known for his violent nature and terrible reputation, starts mocking Morris. Everyone in the prison fears Wolf. He dominates other inmates and is accused of multiple assaults. Later, Morris notices that Litmus secretly feeds a small mouse under the table instead of eating his own food. That night, a guard takes Morris to meet the warden, a strict man who runs the prison with absolute authority. The warden tells him, "I know you're sharp and intelligent, but none of that matters here. Many smart men have tried, but no one has ever escaped from Alcatraz." He warns Morris never to even think about escaping, or he will be torn apart. Morris replies politely, "Sir, who would dare think of escaping while you're in charge?" But deep inside, Morris had already begun planning his escape. Before leaving the office, Morris quietly steals the warden's nail clipper. A small item, but in a place like Alcatraz, even a tiny tool could mean freedom. Back in his cell, he hides it inside his Bible, marking the beginning of his secret mission. The next day in the bathroom, Wolf once again tries to bully Morris. But this time, Morris fights back fiercely and beats Wolf badly. After this fight, Morris earns a new kind of respect, or rather, fear, among the inmates. Soon after, he is assigned a job in the library where he meets an older prisoner named English. English has spent half his life in Alcatraz for committing 2 murders. He knows every corner of the prison and keeps track of everything that happens inside. English tells Morris that he already knows about his fight with Wolf. As Morris delivers books to other prisoners, he also meets a quiet and kind man named Doc, an artist who spends his time painting. Doc tells Morris that in a place like Alcatraz, anyone could go insane, but his art helps him stay sane. When Morris asks about a flower in his painting, Doc replies softly, "That's my happiness, something I only have in my art, not in my heart." Later, Morris tries to convince English to help him escape, but English laughs and says, "This isn't a prison, son. It's our grave. To leave this place, you'd have to die first." He warns Morris that even if he somehow climbs the walls and avoids the guards, the sea will trap him forever. Still, Morris remains determined. He's not afraid of death, only of dying without trying. That night, an officer informs Morris that he will now work in the carpentry shop, earning 50 cents an hour. Morris accepts eagerly, hoping that in the workshop he might find tools that could help him dig his way to freedom. The next day, Morris asks Litmus if there's any way to escape from this place. Litmus jokes, saying, "It's easy. Every cell has an air vent. Maybe you can crawl through it to the roof." Morris smiles but keeps the idea in mind. Soon after, Wolf attacks Morris again with a knife, but this time a guard intervenes. Wolf even stabs the guard, and both are punished by being thrown into Block D, a dark isolation cell where prisoners are tortured in silence. After 2 weeks of misery in the darkness, Morris is released back into his cell. Litmus sends him a note through his pet mouse that says, "Welcome back, Morris." Later, a new inmate named Charlie arrives and is placed in the cell next to Morris. They quickly become friends. One day, the warden suddenly inspects every cell. When he reaches Doc's cell, he sees dozens of beautiful paintings, even one of himself. At first, he smiles, but the next day, out of cruelty, he orders all of Doc's paintings to be destroyed. Heartbroken, Doc cuts off 3 of his fingers with an axe, saying, "I don't need the fingers that can no longer paint." Before being taken away, he secretly hides the same flower from his painting painting in Morris's coat, a silent message of friendship and lost happiness. That night, Morris notices a cockroach disappearing into his air vent, confirming there might be a way out. From that moment, he decides to dig through the vent. He shares his idea with John and Clarence, two brothers he already knew from another prison. They, along with Charlie, join his plan. Morris explains that the seawater surrounding Alcatraz has weakened the walls over time, and if they dig carefully, they might create a tunnel to the roof. The brothers agree. To fool the guards, Clarence suggests making dummy heads with real hair from the prison barbershop. These would lie on their beds, so the guards wouldn't notice their absence. Still, one challenge remains: how to cross the freezing ocean. Morris asks John to steal raincoats from the prison workshop. They'll stitch them together to make a rubber raft and life jackets. Everyone is excited. Charlie is assigned to keep watch while the others dig. Slowly but surely, their plan begins to take shape. Morris starts digging each night with the small tools he has built using a spoon and the stolen nail clipper. Bit by bit, he makes progress, hiding the cement dust in his pockets to dump it outside later. He also creates a sharp tool from metal he sneaks out of the carpentry shop. To cover the hole, he builds fake cardboard panels that perfectly match the prison wall, so no one can notice. Next, the four prisoners, Morris, John, Clarence, and Charlie, begin making realistic dummy heads using soap, toilet paper, and hair from the barbershop. When painted, the fake heads look frighteningly real. Now everything is ready: the tunnels, the raft, the fake heads, and the plan. On the night of the escape, Morris places the dummy head on his pillow and quietly crawls through the vent. The others follow through their own tunnels, meeting on the roof. But when they reach the top, Charlie loses his courage and stays behind in fear. The other three continue, climbing down pipes, avoiding the searchlights, and finally reaching the outer fence. They climb it, run toward the shore, and inflate their homemade raft with their breath. Exhausted but determined, they push it into the dark ocean and sail away into the night, disappearing forever. The next morning, the guards do their routine check. Everything seems normal until one guard tries to wake Morris. As he pulls the blanket, the dummy head rolls onto the floor, revealing the shocking truth. Sirens roar through the prison. 3 men have escaped Alcatraz. A massive search begins, but no bodies are ever found. The warden insists they drowned, but deep inside, he knows they were too smart for that. When he finds Doc's flower near the shore, he realizes Morris left it as a final message, a symbol of victory and revenge. A year later, the Alcatraz prison is permanently shut down, and the legend of Frank Morris, the world's smartest prisoner, lives on forever.